Welcome, everyone. We will just give folks a minute or two to get online here. But we are here today with the lovely Tony, who is gracing us with being wide awake for this exercise. But we also have Danielle and Murray, who are Tony's handler and co-handler. And they are going to introduce themselves and kind of talk about how they came to kind of join the PADS community. In just a second here, we're going to give folks a moment or two to get on. However, I want to invite everybody that is watching, if you have questions, feel free. If you're watching us on Zoom today, you can click on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen or in the top right if you're on a mobile device, and just throw your question into that Q&A box and we'll try and answer it. If you're watching on Facebook Live, you can just throw those questions straight into the comment section of the live and we will try and answer them on air here. So with that, welcome Murray and Danielle and Tony, of course. Murray, do you want to go first and just talk about kind of how you came to be part of the PADS community and kind of what your role is?
Yeah, for sure. So I first learned about PADS several years ago when my daughter was in elementary school and they had a PADS dog. And I heard about that dog every day after school. And that really got me interested in the idea of helping dog being at a school to support students in a variety of ways. So it was a couple of years ago that I put my application into PADS. I'm the principal of a small high school alternate program called the Customized Learning Center, or CLC. And here at CLC, we have 50 high school age students enrolled in our program. And our program is designed for students who have mental health challenges and they can't attend regular high school for a variety of reasons. So we have a small setting here. And I put the two together in my mind, a PADS dog and the support that dog would bring and the program itself and our students. And it seemed to me to be a perfect fit.
That's fantastic. And Danielle, you're joining us. I know you're both at the same place, but you were gracious enough to join us from separate rooms so we could kind of see and hear you both and not have to wear masks. So thanks so much for joining us. Tell us about how you became connected or your kind of history with PADS, but also your role with Tony.
Yeah, I am a youth worker at the Customized Learning Center. So I have an office down closer to where our students are, and I kind of create a space where the students are welcome to come and check in with me, and they have the opportunity to check in with Tony. Yeah, and that's kind of my role down at the Customized Learning Center, is just to be there to support the students kind of in their day-to-day. How I got to know about the PADS organization, before I worked at the Customized Learning Center, I had the opportunity to work in a few other schools throughout the Coquitlam School District, and there are various dogs sort of in our district, and I've seen them trotting around the schools and asked my questions there. So that's kind of how I came to learn that they were a part of some of the schools in our district.
Yeah, I think Coquitlam might have the record for the most PADS dogs. It's been really exciting to see the program grow there. And so for those of you that have just kind of tuned in, I see lots of new faces coming up on the screen here on Facebook and on Zoom. So if you're just joining us, we're here with Murray and Danielle and Tony, PADS accredited facility dog Tony, from the Customized Learning Center in Coquitlam. And so we're just going to talk today about what it is like to have this handsome and very chill dude in a high school learning environment and what his role is. So if you have questions that you want us to answer while we're live, you can throw those into the chat. If you're watching on Zoom, or if you're watching on Facebook Live, you can throw those right into the comment section and we will answer them kind of in our discussion here for you. So feel free to kind of throw your questions into those comment section. You can also throw into the comments, just let us know where you're watching from. It's always interesting for us to see kind of what has brought people kind of to the call for the day. So with that, let's talk about Tony's role within the program. What does that look like? So you talked about the impact that he might have. Let's talk about what does an average day look like for Tony?
Yeah, well, I'll try to answer that somewhat and then hand it over to Danielle to fill in the gaps. So Tony came our way last March. So he started in our program right after spring break, and immediately we saw the positive impact that Tony has on the program and on the students here. All of our students have struggled with attendance throughout their high school years, and some into their middle and even back into their elementary years. So many of our students struggle to just get to school. And if they arrive at school, they may struggle to get into class because of anxiety related issues, etc. So Tony is here. He's a safe, non-judgmental, wonderful guy to be around. And the students just gravitate to him. They will meet him in Danielle's office, or if Danielle has him out and about in the CLC wing of the building. And the students will stop and give him a pet, or they'll cuddle with him on the couch. And Tony just provides that safe feeling for students when they arrive at school, and helps them transition from home or wherever they've been to being at school, and helps them to start off their day with a much more positive feeling, and helps them to settle and to feel like this is a place for them. And Tony's open acceptance of everyone is a real factor for that. Danielle, did you want to explain maybe what the day looks like?
Yeah, so Murray will bring Tony down kind of just before our students are arriving. And, you know, on an average day, Tony will just be hanging out with me and greeting the students as they enter the building. But there's very often times that we have students that are not even able to make it into our building. And so Tony will go and he'll meet them out in the parking lot, and maybe we take a lap around the track with Tony before they're feeling like they're ready and comfortable to come in. Tony at school, he's really got quite the fan following. I like to think that the students are coming to see me, but a lot of the time they're coming just to see Tony.
I think that's something that most PADS dog handlers experience, is like, oh, okay, I'm like the backup singer now. So, which is kind of, it's neat to see just the impact that kind of grounding presence has. So we did have someone, Sarah's asking, does Tony's energy change as he interacts with different students? And I would add to that, in different situations, like what does that look like?
Yeah, he's very consistent in his energy level, in his engagement with students. He never rejects anybody who wants to come in and pet him. He's very calm. We have some school-wide activities. For example, this morning we did a school-wide art activity in the gym, where students were spread out and at tables doing some painting, guided painting, and Tony was there to walk around with Danielle or me and interact with the students. And he's very social that way. And likewise, when we do other events like that, like group activities, but his main work is being stationary, and students coming and sitting with him or cuddling with him or petting him. And he's so reliable that he'll be gentle and kind to everybody. So it has a real impact. One of the other things too in our program is Tony has found his way into being a featured part of our staff. So we do a newsletter every term, and each of the staff write a little article, and Tony writes an article too, the Tony Times. We have monthly recognition awards, and we've dubbed them the Tony Awards, and the students get their certificate and their photo with Tony. So he's becoming very much a part of the culture of the school here.
Sorry, I lost my sound there. I said I love that, and the Tony Awards might be the most perfect thing ever. So, and it's interesting. I think a lot of times people assume that every PADS accredited facility dog is the same temperament, the same energy, etc. And actually, we match dogs very carefully in terms of ensuring that they're bringing the right energy they need to the role. So, we look at, for example, like Pads Delray, who's one of our accredited facility dogs that works with first responders. He is known for his wiggle and his zooms and stuff. And he has a really kind of upbeat, kind of positive energy, which works really well when he's working with first responders, etc. But I look at Tony and just that chill and what you're describing, how if you've got kids, for example, that are anxious or stressed or worried, that having that very calm, grounding, even keel probably would be a really just such a positive influence.
Yeah, exactly. So, maybe Danielle can talk about the reading buddies that we did at a local elementary school before the holidays.
Yeah, we did a sort of short 6-week stint with a local elementary school called the Reading Buddies. So at the CLC, we have what we call service club students, and these are students who are looking to get some extra volunteer hours, get some experience in the community. So our service club students went to an elementary school down the road and read with some kindergarten students, and we brought Tony along as well. And it was really nice to see Tony being diverse enough to interact with, much smaller students who are very excited to see Tony. And then our students who are, a little bit calmer and less touchy.
Yes, my early days at PADS, I was volunteer and I was working in an elementary school. And yes, the smaller the child, the more touching is apparently required or involved. So yeah, it's definitely a different energy. I remember feeling like I had like a herd of children if I would walk around the school with the dog. So
we would all often sit there and say, okay, everybody's got to take 2 bum scooches back. We're crowding Tony a little bit here.
Let's give the men some space. So that's fantastic. So in terms of Tony himself, do you want to talk a little bit about, because it's neat, you sort of touched on that about giving him space, but does he ever get stressed by the students? And what does keeping Tony healthy and happy look like, whether in school or outside of school? What does his routine look like?
Well, maybe I'll get Danielle to jump in on this and share your thoughts first.
Yeah, so as I kind of mentioned earlier, Murray will come and bring Tony down at the start of our day when our students are arriving. And so he will be here to greet the students and kind of start the day off on a welcoming high note. As far as the day progresses, the students will be in their classes. It's very often that we will have a student that's maybe struggling in math class, feeling a little uneasy, and I will bring Tony in there, and Tony will just be there to sit with them, maybe under the table, and just be present with them. And that oftentimes will give the student that little bit of a boost in order to complete the work and the assignments that they're doing. Kind of from there, Tony will go on his lunch break with Murray. He's actually here for our lunch break first, while our students are mingling around, and we'll just sort of float around between the classrooms, just checking in with the kids. But then Murray will take him for his own lunch break. And Murray?
Yeah. gives him a chance to get some fresh air and to step away. Tony is so calm, but I know that he's working hard when he's here. He's on, he's very obedient and responsive and open to people here. But I know that's work for him. So it's good for him to have that midday break and then come back for the afternoon classes with Dannielle. And he's we don't see him really stressed or being triggered very often. I think maybe if he's with Dannielle sometimes and wants to be with me, then he might show a little bit of that looking around. And but he's adapted so quickly to having two handlers. And I think that's a really key thing for Tony. I would imagine that some PADS dogs may not respond that well to having two different handlers, but Tony certainly makes a transition really well.
That's lovely. I think, going back to what I was saying before about matching each individual dog. So when we're looking at a dog coming up through training and that is potentially taking the accredited facility dog path, is we are looking for dogs who really are going to take everything in stride. I know a lot of times I hear from people, oh, my dog would have made a great PADS dog because, they're just so in tune with people and their emotions. And there's a lot of dogs that are, I think it's one of the beauty of their species is that so many of them are just very dialed into the people around them. But I think what makes a dog like Tony different is that breeding that has gone into for generations to create that resilience that he can make it his full-time job. There's a lot of dogs that, might be able to do it a couple of times a week for a few hours and do like pet visitation, that kind of thing. But if you were to ask them to be like, okay, be present and be calm and deal with big feelings 8 hours a day, it would take a toll on some dogs. And obviously we're looking at Tony here. He does not look stressed in the least. But that's neat to hear that he really just kind of is a go with the flow kind of guy, which always makes me happy when we hear that at PADS, that because it means that the right match was made. And you're absolutely right, Murray. There are some dogs that wouldn't handle that. They really look to their person, their one person, as their anchor. And some of them are great at their jobs because the person at the end of their leash is their regulation, right? And so when that leash gets handed off, they're like, oh, what is happening? And so not every dog can kind of make that transition. It doesn't mean they can't be a working dog. They just be better suited to a placement with a single handler. So very, very cool. So for those of you watching, we've got a few minutes left here. If there's any questions, if you're watching on Zoom, you can click the Q&A button in the bottom bar of your Zoom window, or in the top right if you're on mobile. If you're watching on Facebook Live, you can throw comments right into the comment section. Lots of people saying hello. So hi, Sil, and hi, Sarah. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's lovely to have so many people on today. So if you have any questions, throw them in and we will kind of fire them at Murray and Dannielle here. So here's my question. What do you think Tony's favorite part of the day is?
I gotta say, when I'm getting ready to leave for work, he's sitting up and he's watching my every move. And as soon as as most people, we go through our routines, as soon as I'm into that part of my routine when I'm ready to leave home for work, he's right with me. He's watching, and he really gives that sense that he's looking forward to going to work. And I know he wants to be with me, but I think he also anticipates the day, and that's part of his routine. And I think that's one part of the day that kind of stands out. Dannielle, what about you? Does something stand out for you?
Yeah, there's a couple things that stand out for me. I definitely think when the students start arriving, I can tell he's excited. He's often will be sitting on my couch and I can hear his little tail thump, thump, thump. Like he's getting excited that the students are coming, because there's a lot of students that come in and they greet him specifically first thing when they come in. So I know he gets really excited for that. I also think, like all of us, at the end of the day, you know, he's a hardworking guy, and he's working, and while he's sleeping right now, he's definitely doing a lot of hard work. And at the end of the day, when Murray comes to pick him up, he signifies being down at the CLC with me, like, this is working time. And when Murray comes to get him at the end of his shift, he's off, and he's very excited for that too.
I think that's true of all of us, especially, I mean, we can love our jobs, but also love, you know, being able to kind of, you know, kick off our shoes and, you know, enjoy kind of our evening kind of thing. So that's very cool. Okay, so we had a couple questions come in, and they're coming from every direction. So Nicole's asking, what does Tony like to do on his time off? So when he's not at school, and then also, how old is he?
Okay, well, Tony will turn 4 on March the 1st. And one of his favorite things is when I take him into Mundy Park. And I live near Mundy Park here in Coquitlam. And the off-leash times and the off-leash trails, he loves running around. He's never met a dog he didn't like. So he's so social that way, and just having that freedom to run around with other dogs. And he sees another golden lab, he's especially enthralled with the dog. And that's one of the things that he loves to do.
Yeah, I think that's true. A lot of our PADS dogs. Mundy Park is definitely a hot spot for sure.
Yeah.
And I think partly because it's such a great park. A lot of dog parks are like little chain linked areas, and everybody kind of stands around. But the beautiful thing about Mundy Park that we're referring to is it's got a bunch of off-leash trails where the dogs can be dogs and run and jump over logs and chase each other around, and you know, just have a fantastic time and roll in mud puddles and all that good stuff. So
one of the things he does when we do go to a fenced dog park, he's as quick to check in with every human as he is with every dog, and just a quick little sniff, and he's just so kind of social that way, and you can tell he loves that setting as well.
Well, and that reminds me, we didn't talk about this at the beginning, is that Tony looks like a Labrador, but he's actually a Lab Golden Cross. And what you just described is a very Golden Retriever trait. I have one at my feet here. And when we go to the dog park, she is the same. She's like, dog schmugs. I want to go say hi to all the people. But it sounds like Tony is a lover of both people and dogs. So that's fantastic. So Eleanor's just asking, what is Danielle's role in the school? And so Danielle, do you want to just speak to that just briefly?
Yeah, so I'm the youth worker at our school. My role is to just be here to connect with the students. If they're having a tough time, they can come and just check in with me. They might just, you know, need something else too. They might need me to help them with a resume. They might need me to help them look for a job. Sometimes there's a more serious component to my job where, you know, students are in crisis, and I try and help them navigate through that. But I would say, just on a day-to-day speaking, it's a lot of checking in and just being here and present for the students.
Well, that is wonderful. Is there anything more that you want to add or tell us about Tony, or the role or the impact that he's had?
Yeah, I just this morning, one of the students that more recently joined our program had arrived for our art activity in the gym, and she came over to me and said, you know, I'm not feeling that well, so my mom's coming to pick me up. And I chatted with her a little bit and how she's liking the program, and you know, I could tell that she was feeling a fair amount of stress. And Tony was with me when we were chatting, and then but her eyes brightened up above her mask, and she says, but we have Tony here. So that it's just a little example, micro example of how having Tony in this program gives the kids a lift and an emotional boost. And Danielle and I both know students that some days the reason they come to CLC is because they'll have some time with Tony. And so that speaks volumes about the impact of a PADS dog here.
Yeah, I know. I remember one of our puppy raisers who's a teacher was talking about just the impact that having a puppy, even not a facility dog, but a puppy being raised in her classroom, that, you know, she had a child that for the year prior to having to puppy raising, their attendance was like around 30-40%. Like they were just super anxious about school and everything else. And the parent just talking about the impact that, you know, the child now wakes up every morning, is excited to go to school and see the dog, and that it just reduces that stress level, it reduces that anxiety. And it doesn't mean that those things go away or disappear, but that it's just that tiny little support that kind of creates a bit of a bridge. And so it's amazing to see, especially when you have a full-time dog that is going to be kind of that, you know, long-term member of the staff that is kind of there and kind of reliable and dependable. And I think that is a really cool thing, especially for a specialized program like yours, where, you know, you're dealing with a large group of students that have kind of all similar challenges. So
Yeah.
what a fantastic thing. Not only that you have Tony, but also that there is the Customized Learning Center to kind of support students with those challenges. So,
Yeah.
well, so somebody else is asking, does Tony have any specific commands when he greets students? So does he work with the kids at all? What does that look like?
Yeah, certainly he does. Probably more when we're around a group of students. We talked about the reading buddies, and a couple of weeks ago, I spent 2.5 days supervising in elementary school where the admin was away, and so that was with, you know, kindergarten to grade 5 kids, and, you know, Tony's commands were, you know, to sit and wait. He's not one to really lunge out at others anyway, so it was more for him just to as kids were approaching, for me to have him in a sit position, just to kind of be ready for the kids to approach him. And really here on a day-to-day basis at CLC, the students themselves, being older students, they have that intuitive sense not to crowd him or to encroach on him. So for that reason, you know, we're able to kind of navigate through the day, and we use the typical commands to move them around the building, the let's go and the wait and go in, and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Right, Tone?
He's like, I'm going to wake up just for the end so I can have my little cameo here. So there's another really great question that I think I'm going to take. So Eleanor is asking, is a PADS mission or something we can help communicate to our communities to have more accredited facility dogs in schools, or would that take away the placing of dogs with individuals as service dogs? I think the answer to this question is one of the coolest things is that a service dog couldn't do Tony's job, and Tony couldn't do a service dog's job. So the dogs that make good accredited facility dogs are dogs that probably would not be well suited to doing a lot of, like, you know, skills-based work where they're being asked to pick up keys 37 times a day. So what makes Tony nice and chill and super like connected to the students and everything else would actually probably mean that he would require a lot of work on the part of the handler, the service dog handler, to kind of get him going enough to be able to do that kind of service work. So it's a beautiful thing for us that each of our dogs gets to pick their job. So while we're raising puppies, every litter is going to have a variety, and between litters even. So we have had it where like an entire litter all becomes accredited facility dogs, just the genetics kind of mixed together there, and just to make some really, really nice accredited facility dogs. But often even within litter mates, you'll have a lot of variety. We've had some litters where we had a service dog, a hearing dog, PTSD dog, and an accredited facility dog, kind of all in the same sibling group. And so I don't want folks to ever think that one program takes away from another. It actually increases our success rate, because if we only did service dogs, for example, Tony would probably be, living the good life as a pet, right? And which would mean that we weren't kind of furthering our mission, because programs like the one that you run is part of our mission. So absolutely, it's something worthy of sharing. And I think sharing interviews like this is one of the ways that we kind of educate people about the different programs that PADS has, and how we can kind of impact our communities in different ways. And I'm sure that you will agree, but we've heard it on Tune In Tuesday before, it's just that every school should have a dog, right? And like just the impact, but particularly to programs like yours, where there's a very, very real need there to kind of create safe spaces, and also just that extra motivation. So that's a really great question, Eleanor, and thank you so much for asking it. So with that, I'm just going to take a quick look back at Facebook here, because while I was answering, I wasn't looking. Oh, just some lovely comments. So I'll let you guys go and read the comments, just people kind of commenting and thanking, etc. But thank you everyone for joining us. We've got a tiny bit over, so I want to wrap things up and thank everyone for coming on and watching today and asking wonderful questions. But a special thank you to the three of you for taking time out of your day to come in and share. So thanks so much, Danielle and Murray. And Tony, thanks for waking up at the end there. We didn't really ask you a bunch of questions, but
well, thank you so much for having us.
Oh, our pleasure. Absolutely. Anytime. So thanks so much. Give them a scritch for us. Bye, everyone.